He may even identify himself with it and believe that he is what he appears to be.
Welcome to the NCE Study Guide.
Hey everyone.
We're diving deep today, really aiming to get you ready for the National Counselor Examination.
That's right.
Our focus in this session, it's the group counseling and group work domain. This lines up directly with the case rep core area of group counseling.
So basically we're talking theory and, importantly, the practical side of how groups actually work.
Exactly. The dynamics, the energy, how they change over time.
And we wanted to dedicate this one, actually. This deep dive came about because of some really great feedback from our Saturday study groups.
Yeah, that's right. Folks were mentioning, some confusion around group development stages, especially spotting them in those NCE scenarios. So this one's for you.
Totally.
And just a quick background, this guide, all this content, comes from Ostlund. He's a former university instructor, just passed the NCE himself recently.
Right, so he gets it. He gets the test prep side.
He does. And he blends that clinical training with this real interest in, how we learn. Folklore, storytelling.
Yeah.
He finds ways to make things stick.
Which is what we're trying to do here. Go beyond just, memorizing lists.
Exactly. The goal is to help you think like a counselor, to really get a feel for what's happening in a group. We're guided by three core values here: curiosity,
Digging deeper.
integrity,
Sticking to what's ethical, what's evidence-based.
and connection. Because, counseling is all about relationships, right?
Spot on. And the way we're going to tackle this, think of it like an AI puppet show happening in your mind. That sounds a bit odd, maybe.
Yeah, maybe a bit.
Yeah.
But the idea is, think of us as your guides.
Right, helping you navigate the sometimes kind of complex world of group dynamics, making it clear, engaging, hopefully memorable.
We want it to feel like a conversation, something that clicks and that helps things fall into place for you.
Exactly. And hey, if you are finding this helpful, please take just a second to give us a 5-star rating.
Yeah, it really does help other students find the guide.
It does. Oh, and don't forget, you're always welcome to jump into our free Saturday morning study sessions.
Just shoot an email to ncestudyguide@gmail.com. We'll get you the details. Connect with us, connect with other learners. It's a good space.
Okay, so the heart of this deep dive. It's really about exploring how groups change, how they grow.
Yeah, we're going to unpack why things happen when they do in a group.
And hopefully show you how understanding those patterns, those rhythms, can really boost your confidence. Not just for the NCE, but, for your actual counseling work down the road.
Okay, let's get into it then. Section 1, Understanding Group Dynamics.
Right. So here we're looking at how groups develop, why conflict actually matters, and what you can expect to see on the NCE about all this.
It's interesting the way groups evolve and how we as counselors respond. That stuff comes up a lot on the test, doesn't it?
It really does. And like we said, that study group question was great. How do you tell the difference between normal group bumps in the road and a real red flag?
And crucially, how do you answer that on the test?
Exactly. So our goal here isn't just to, list the stages like forming, storming.
Right. We want you to get the feel of it, the emotional journey of a group.
Yeah, how individuals grow in that space, how the relationships shift.
And how we facilitate that, how we create that safe, purposeful space.
So by the end of this section, you should have a really clear framework for those stages, clinically relevant, test relevant.
We'll use practical examples, too, try to bring it to life.
Yeah, and we'll touch on those common member roles, group norms, leadership styles, resistance, all that good stuff.
And finally, give you some specific pointers for spotting those NCE-style questions.
Okay, so first up, why bother with group dynamics? I mean, isn't it just people talking in a room?
Yeah. It can seem like that sometimes, can it? But group counseling is way more than that. It's a whole system, a system of relationships.
Right. And when it works well, it offers things individual counseling maybe can't quite reach in the same way.
Like that peer feedback, right?
Yeah.
Hearing it from someone else who gets it.
Yeah, that feeling of shared understanding, that Me Too moment. And seeing your own patterns reflected back.
Wow.
That can be powerful.
Super powerful for growth.
Exactly. You get different perspectives, a different kind of support. But for a group to get there, to become that safe, effective space, it has to go through a process.
And that process isn't always smooth sailing.
Definitely not. It can feel messy. You get tension, those awkward silences.
Maybe outright conflict sometimes. Cliques forming.
All sorts of things. But here's the key takeaway. Those elements, even the tension and conflict, they're often necessary parts of the journey. They're needed for the group to become truly effective.
Necessary. Even the conflict, that sounds counterintuitive.
It does, but yes, conflict, when it's handled constructively within the group, can actually be a major catalyst for growth, for deeper understanding.
Okay. So that's why understanding the dynamics is so crucial.
Exactly. And thinking about the NCE, the questions aren't usually just define this term. They're often scenarios, right?
Yeah, like, based on this interaction, what stage is the group in? Or what should the counselor do next?
Precisely. Or identifying member roles, resistance patterns, maybe even linking theory to what you're seeing. To answer those well, you need more than just a vocabulary list. You need a way to understand what's happening.
Which brings us to Tuckman's stages, right? That seems like a really core framework. Forming, storming, norming, performing, adjourning.
That's the one. Bruce Tuckman's 5-stage model. It's the most widely taught and definitely the one you're most likely to see referenced or implied on the NCE. So yeah, let's break each one down. Look at the key traits, the kind of emotional feel.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. Forming. What's the vibe?
Think first session, maybe the first couple. Politeness is key. People are cautious. They're looking to the leader for cues, for direction.
Lots of what are the rules here kind of feeling.
Exactly. Emotionally, it's a mix. There's anxiety, obviously, curiosity about others, maybe some hope for what the group could offer, but also, self-consciousness.
Trying to figure out where they fit. Is it safe?
Right. So you see that surface level stuff. Not much deep sharing yet. They want structure, rules.
And the leader's role here.
Very directive. You got to establish those rules, set the tone, and normalize the uncertainty, really build that initial safety net.
Makes sense. NCE tip for forming.
Yeah. If you see a scenario where members are constantly looking to the leader, avoiding sharing with each other, that's a big clue for forming. The focus is external, on the leader, not yet internal on group connection.
Got it. Polite, leader dependent. So what happens when that initial politeness starts to wear off?
Then you hit storming. This is where the conflict starts bubbling up.
Okay.
Members start testing boundaries, maybe pushing back against the leader or each other.
Emotionally.
It can get intense, frustration, maybe defensiveness if they feel challenged. But underneath, there's often vulnerability, even fear, as they start showing more of their real selves.
You might see little subgroups or alliances forming, too.
Yeah, definitely. As disagreements pop up, now this stage can feel really uncomfortable for everyone. But, and this is crucial, it's necessary. The group needs this to grow.
So the conflict isn't failure.
Not at all. Often it means members are starting to feel safe enough to be authentic, even if it causes friction.
Wow. Okay, so the counselor's role during storming is key then.
Hugely important. You need to model healthy conflict, help members name the emotions flying around, facilitate dialogue, don't take sides, stay grounded.
NCE tip for storming.
Look for disagreements, power struggles, resistance to the leader or the process. That's likely storming. And remember, this is normal, not dysfunctional. It's messy, but it's how needs clash before real cohesion can form.
Okay, normal, not dysfunctional. That's a huge takeaway. What comes after the storm, hopefully?
Usually things calm down and you move into norming. Key traits here. More group cohesion, shared goals start emerging, people accept the roles they've kind of fallen into.
Sound nicer.
Yeah, it often feels that way. Emotionally, there's relief after the storm, a growing sense of belonging, some optimism.
And this is where the group's own rules start solidifying, the norms.
Exactly. Those spoken and unspoken ways of operating, trust deepens, people share more.
And the counselor's role shifts.
Yep. You can step back a bit from being super directive, encourage member initiative, acknowledge the progress, reinforce that positive group culture that's emerging.
NCE clues for norming.
Look for phrases like increased group cohesion, members giving positive feedback, shared group norms. Those strongly suggest norming.
Okay, norming sounds pretty good. Is performing just more of that? Smooth sailing.
Performing is definitely the most functional stage, but maybe not quite smooth sailing. It's where the deep work happens.
Okay.
Key traits: really strong engagement, mutual support, lots of self-direction within the group.
Emotionally.
Confidence, a sense of flow in the sessions, empowerment. Members are exploring tough stuff, challenging each other constructively, offering real insights, applying what they're learning.
They really own the process.
They do. There's real investment. The leader here is much more of a facilitator, supporting exploration, maybe offering those meta-observations, comments on the process itself.
Gotcha. NCE tip for performing.
If the scenario describes members taking emotional risks, facilitating insights for each other, that's probably performing. It's the stage we aim for, but you got to earn it through the earlier phases.
Makes sense. But groups don't last forever. That brings us to adjourning.
Right. Adjourning or termination, the final stage. Key traits here are usually mixed feelings, reflection on the journey, and closure.
Emotionally, what's that like?
Sadness, maybe pride in what was accomplished, some anxiety about ending, but also completion. You might see some emotional withdrawal.
Or even a little step backward, like temporary regression.
Yeah, anticipating the loss of support. The counselor's job is to normalize all those feelings, highlight the gains people made, and facilitate closure. Maybe rituals, final sharing, affirmations.
And on the NCE.
Look for mentions of the group ending, themes of review, loss, transition. That points to adjourning.
Okay, wow. That's a really clear map of the stage's behavior and emotion.
Yeah.
Now, you also mentioned member roles. What are some common ones we should be watching for?
Yeah, so beyond the stages, groups develop these little ecosystems, right?
Yeah.
With recurring behavior patterns or roles, not fixed personalities, but roles within the group context.
Like the gatekeeper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tries to control the communication flow, manage time. Then there's the scapegoat.
The one who seems to catch all the group's frustration.
Yeah, often unconsciously holding the tension. The harmonizer, the peacemaker, sometimes suppresses conflict instead of working through it.
The monopolizer. Talks a lot.
Talks excessively, yeah. Often avoids vulnerability that way. And the silent one might be withdrawn, anxious, observing before jumping in.
How does the NCE test these?
Often in questions about resistance, interventions, cohesion, if you see these roles, the answer usually involves gentle exploration, understanding the function of the role, not harsh confrontation.
Makes sense. Understand the why behind the role. What about leadership styles? Authoritarian, democratic, laissez-faire?
Absolutely. Leader style shapes the group energy. Awareness of your own style is key too.
So authoritarian or directive, leader controls, gives instructions.
Right.
Limits discussion. Good for early stages, like forming or psychoeducational groups where you're teaching specific stuff.
Democratic or facilitative.
Encourages group ownership, discussion. Ideal for process groups, especially in norming and performing. Fosters collaboration.
And laissez-faire, hands off.
Minimal involvement, can be risky, might lead to chaos if the group isn't mature enough.
So the NCE might ask us to match the style to the group's stage or purpose.
Exactly, like a brand new support group probably needs more structure initially, more of that directive style to build safety. A long-running therapy group in performing thrives with facilitation.
Okay, but even early on, are there downsides to being too directive? Does it stifle things?
That's a great point. Yeah, absolutely. If a leader stays too directive for too long, it can inhibit the group's ability to develop autonomy and cohesion. Members might remain dependent or resent the control, which could actually hinder moving into storming or norming effectively. It's a balance.
Okay, got it. Flexibility is key. You also mentioned resistance and transference earlier. How do those look in groups? Resistance is that pushback, right? Against the process, the leader, other members. It's normal, part of change.
Like skipping sessions, sarcasm, silence.
Yeah, or questioning the group's usefulness to avoid engaging. Transference is that unconscious projection pasting old relationships onto people in the group.
Like seeing the leader as a parent figure, or reacting to a peer like they're your sibling.
Exactly. The counselor's job, don't take it personally. See it as data. Explore it gently.
Like, I notice you seem hesitant today.
Right. Curiosity, not judgment. Resistance is information about comfort levels, not just defiance. For transference, you might make a process comment to the whole group, like, I'm noticing the group often looks to me for answers. Explore the dynamic that way.
Explore, don't confront. Got it. So, pulling it all together, how might the NCE test these dynamics in action? Give us some examples.
Okay. Stage identification. Member challenges the leader openly, likely storming. Role management. One member dominates monopolizer. Intervention needed.
Ethical issues.
Counselor oversharing. Boundary blurring. Group process. Members giving deep feedback. Reflecting. Performing. They use scenarios to see if you understand it in practice.
Super helpful examples. So, clinically, what are the big takeaways for us as potential group leaders?
Okay, key things. Storming, growth, not failure. Remember that. Silence isn't always resistance. It might be processing. Conflict often reveals what needs healing.
And our own presence matters.
Hugely. Calm, clear communication is impactful. And for the NCE, trust the pattern you see in the scenario more than just memorizing lists. Trust your intuition, but back it up with theory.
Excellent points. You have a summary table here. Can we quickly run through that?
Sure. Group development stages. How groups evolve, tested via scenario behavior, member roles, Common patterns tested via intervention questions, leadership styles, authoritarian, democratic, laissez-faire, tested by matching style to stage type.
Resistance and transference.
Emotional responses, tested via ethics or process insight questions, and counselor's role by stage. Directive early, facilitative later, helps align with practical scenarios.
Perfect quick reference. Any last thoughts on this section before we hit terminology?
Yeah, just really try to get a feel for it. Understand what it feels like when a group builds trust, lets its guard down, when vulnerability emerges, when healing starts.
It's not just memorization.
Exactly. The NCE tests your grasp of human change, relationship evolution, healing, and community. So ask yourself, what's the emotion here? What's the best next step? How do I support without taking over? Trust your gut. Guided by the theory. You can do this.
All right, fantastic foundation. Let's shift gears to section 2, essential terms for understanding group work, the vocab section.
Right, and this isn't just about memorizing definitions, it's about understanding the language the NCE uses.
Yeah, terms like cohesion, scapegoating, norms, they can be tricky.
They can. We hear it in the study groups. People recognize the dynamic but freeze when they see the term on the test.
Exactly that feeling.
So we're not going to drown you in jargon. We'll focus on 10 foundational terms, key ones.
What's the plan for each term?
Simple definition, a real-life example from group work, and a specific NCE application tip, how it might show up on the test. Goal is to turn these terms into tools, build confidence.
Perfect. Let's start with term 1, group cohesion.
Okay, group cohesion. Think of it as the emotional glue, the sense of belonging, trust, togetherness in the group.
In practice, what does that look like?
You see members supporting each other, feeling safe enough to be vulnerable, really engaging, shared laughter, maybe shared tears, affirmations, just that sense of we're in this together.
And on the NCE, how might they describe it?
Often indirectly. Look for descriptions of empathy between members, supportive feedback, and remember, cohesion is usually strongest in norming and performing stages.
Got it. Emotional glue. Next term, group norms.
Group norms. These are the rules, spoken or unspoken, guiding behavior in the group.
Like one person speaks at a time.
Exactly. Or maybe an unspoken rule like we don't give advice unless asked. Norms create safety, predictability. But bad norms can also create exclusion if you're not careful.
How might the NCE test this?
Questions about managing disruptive behavior, restoring trust often involve norms. Or maybe scenario with a harmful norm emerging, like gossip or judgment. The answer usually involves bringing it to the group's attention, co-creating healthier norms.
So norms can evolve, right? Like maybe more leader-set norms informing, shifting towards member-driven ones later.
Absolutely spot on. That's a great point. The norms should ideally mature along with the group. What works in forming, like relying heavily on the leader for structure, wouldn't work as well, or shouldn't, in performing, where you want members taking more ownership. The evolution of norms reflects the group's developmental stage.
Makes sense. Okay, next, roles in group counseling.
Roles, those recurring behavior patterns. We mentioned some earlier: harmonizer, resistor, observer.
Not fixed personality types, but patterns in the group context.
Exactly. Often ways people learn to cope or relate. On the NCE, questions might involve a role impacting the group, like the monopolizer or scapegoat.
And the answer is usually about
Balancing support with accountability. Helping the person see the pattern, encouraging healthier ways of interacting, understanding the function it serves for them and the group.
Okay, roles as patterns. Next up, resistance.
Resistance. That behavior that avoids emotional risk, change, disclosure.
Sarcasm, lateness, silence, intellectualizing.
Yeah. But remember, it's not just being difficult. It often signals something important is being approached. Maybe something scary.
How might the NCE show resistance?
Maybe a member withdraws after sharing something vulnerable, or gets argumentative when challenged. Key response. Curiosity, not pathologizing. Gently name it, explore it. What's coming up for you right now?
Resistance is a signal.
Got it.
Next, transference and countertransference in groups.
Okay, same concepts as individual therapy, but layered with group dynamics. Transference. Client projects past relationships onto leader or peers.
Countertransference, leader's reaction based on their past.
Right. In practice, you might see a client acting overly dependent on the leader, or a leader feeling weirdly defensive with one member.
NCE focus.
Often ethical or process scenarios. Look for disproportionate reactions from member or leader. The answer always involves self-awareness, supervision, boundaries for the counselor.
Key is recognizing those unconscious patterns. Next term, universality.
Ah, universality. Such a powerful one. That I'm not alone feeling.
The relief of realizing others share your struggles.
Exactly. You see it when someone shares something painful and others chime in with me too. It breaks down shame, isolation, builds connection.
NCE connection.
It's one of YLUM's key factors, often tested in scenarios about reducing shame or isolation, fostering shared understanding. Big clue for universality.
That shared experience validation. Love it. Next, catharsis.
Catharsis. The emotional release, that relief after expressing pent-up feelings.
Like finally crying about something or expressing anger safely.
Yeah. It happens when the group feels safe enough, often precedes insight. But important NCE point, catharsis itself isn't resolution, it's the release, paving the way for more work.
So NCE might describe strong emotion leading to relief, maybe initial insight.
Exactly. That points to catharsis.
Emotional release. Okay. Next, installation of hope.
Another YLUM factor. Installation of hope. This is seeing others get better and starting to believe you can too.
Like a newer member seeing a long-term member's progress.
Precisely. It fosters belief in the possibility of change. On the NCE, look for this in scenarios about early group stages, or members feeling discouraged, witnessing other success sparking hope, installation of hope.
Seeing is believing, basically.
Nice.
Next term, social microcosm.
Social microcosm, the idea that the group becomes a mini version of the members' outside social worlds.
So how they act in group reflects how they act outside.
Often, yeah. Someone who feels ignored outside might reenact that in group. Someone afraid of judgment outside might be super cautious in group.
Provides opportunities to see those patterns in action.
Exactly. And to try new ways of relating in a safer space. NCE questions might describe someone repeating a familiar pattern. The intervention usually involves gentle awareness raising, insight.
The group is a social lab. Cool concept. Final term. Group process versus group content.
Crucial distinction. Content is what is being talked about, the story, the topic.
Process is how it's being talked about, the emotions, the interactions, the nonverbals.
Right. Someone tells a story, content, but does it with nervous laughter, avoiding eye contact, process. Or the group avoids deep topics, process.
And why is process important for the NCE?
Questions about deepening the group work, increasing insight often point to process. The effective counselor looks beyond the what to the how, observing emotional cues, relational patterns.
Content versus process. Got it. Okay. You've got a cheat sheet table here, too. Can we glance at that?
Yeah, quick guide. Question about feeling connected, supported. Think cohesion, shared group rules. Think norms, familiar behavior patterns, roles or microcosm. Pushback, hesitation, resistance.
Seeing self in others.
Universality, powerful emotional release. Catharsis, belief from others' growth, installation of hope. Personal dynamics in the group. Social microcosm.
How it's said, not what.
Process, member reacting strongly to leader. Consider transference. Hope that helps connect the dots quickly.
Super helpful quick reference. You also mentioned a study group story about scapegoating.
Yeah. Someone said they memorized the definition but didn't get it until they realized, oh, it's that person who always seems to take the heat even when it's not really their fault.
Connecting it to a felt experience.
Exactly. Understanding the dynamic, the feeling, is often way more useful than just the definition. If you recognize the essence, you'll likely nail the term on the test.
Great point. Final thoughts on these terms?
Just that they're all about relationships, human growth in a group context. Think of the group as that mirror and lab for change.
Understand them as experiences, not just words.
Right. That builds confidence for sessions and for the NCE. Keep practicing, zooming out, seeing the emotional picture, using the clues, trusting the process. You're getting this.
Awesome. Okay, ready to apply this. Section 3, Group Dynamics NCE-style mini quiz.
Let's do it. Time to put that understanding to practice. 5 questions, NCE style.
What's the format again?
Okay, for each one. A, I'll read the scenario. B, we'll look at the multiple choice options, maybe briefly review them. C, I'll restate the question clearly. D, we'll give the correct answer and, crucially, explain why, connecting it back to NCE thinking.
Perfect. Let's go. Question 1, Group Development, Recognizing Storming.
A, scenario. A newly formed therapy group is beginning its 3rd session. One member expresses frustration at another for taking up too much time, while another member says, I don't think this group is actually helping. Several others look uncomfortable, and the facilitator notices tension in the room.
Okay, tension in session 3.
B, your options. A, forming. B, storming. C, norming. D, performing. Quick recap. Forming initial politeness, norming cohesion building. performing deep work phase.
C. Restate the question.
Which stage of group development is the group most likely in?
Okay, what's the answer?
D. The correct answer is B, storming. Why? Because storming is defined by this kind of emerging conflict, testing boundaries, pushback. It's messy, uncomfortable, but necessary as members assert themselves. That tension, the direct criticism. Classic storming, moving past the initial, forming politeness.
Makes sense. Conflict and tension early on points to storming. Okay, question 2. Group role, understanding the scapegoat.
A scenario. During a support group for individuals adjusting to divorce, several members repeatedly direct blame or irritation toward one participant. This member often appears anxious, apologetic, and rarely speaks unless prompted.
One person catching all the flack.
B options. A, silent role. B, scapegoating. C, harmonizer. D, monopolizer. Silent role is just quiet. Harmonizer smooths things over. Monopolizer talks too much.
C, restate the question.
Which group dynamic is most clearly represented in this scenario?
Feels like.
D. The correct answer is B, scapegoating. This is textbook. One member becomes the container for the group's negative feelings, anxiety, frustration. They hold the tension. NCE questions on this might ask about intervention, how the counselor supports that member, and redirects the group's focus.
Scapegoating.
Got it.
Unfairly holding the group's tension.
Got it.
Got it. Question 3. Yalom's factors universality.
A scenario. A member of a trauma recovery group shares, "I used to think I was the only one who felt this broken." Immediately, several members nod and offer affirmations like, "I felt that too, and you're not alone."
Ah, that powerful moment.
B, choices. A, catharsis. B, universality. C, installation of hope. D, group cohesion. Catharsis, release. Hope, seeing others improve. Cohesion, belonging.
C, restate the question.
This moment best illustrates which group therapeutic factor?
This one feels clear.
D, correct answer is B, universality. That I'm not alone, shared experience realization, it reduces isolation, shame. Classic Yalom factor, very commonly tested, especially when connection and reduced stigma are described.
Universality. Shared struggle, less isolation. Okay, question 4. Process versus content deepening insight.
A scenario. In a personal growth group, one member tells a lengthy story about a disagreement with their boss. They laugh nervously throughout and avoid eye contact. The group is quiet, and the counselor notices members shifting in their seats.
Okay, the way they're telling the story seems important.
B, what's the most effective counselor response? A, redirect the member to stay on topic. B, bring attention to the emotional tone and group's response. C, ask the group to share similar workplace stories. D, reassure the member that their experience is valid.
C, restate the question.
What is the most effective response for the counselor?
Tricky, but based on what we discussed.
D, the correct answer is B, bring attention to the emotional tone and group's response. This is all about process over content. The nervous laughter, eye contact avoidance, group discomfort, that's where the real action is. Focusing on that process is how you deepen insight. Option B directly addresses the how, not just the what.
Focus on the process, the how. Makes sense. Final quiz question, question 5. Group stage recognizing norming.
A scenario. In a therapy group focused on anxiety, members begin referring to each other by name, offering supportive feedback, and holding space during vulnerable disclosures. One participant says, "It's nice to be in a place where I don't have to explain myself."
Feels like things are clicking for this group.
B, what stage is this? A, forming. B, norming. C, performing. D, adjourning. Forming, start. Performing, deep work. Adjourning, end.
C, restate the question.
What stage of group development does this most likely represent?
Okay, the supportive vibe.
D, the correct answer is B, norming. Exactly. Using names, offering support, feeling understood without over-explaining. These are hallmarks of norming. Trust is building, cohesion is increasing, the group is finding its supportive rhythm and shared culture.
Norming. Increased trust and shared norms.
Got it.
You also have a bonus tip, reading between the lines.
Yeah, just a quick reminder. NCE questions often won't explicitly state the stage or term. They describe feelings, actions, interactions. So really tune into the emotional tone, the group energy, the counselor's role in the scenario. Let the context guide you beyond just keyword spotting.
Great advice. Focus on the whole picture, the feeling. Well, that wraps up our quiz and our deep dive into group dynamics for the NCE.
Phew! Yeah, that was a lot, but hopefully really helpful. And hey, if it was helpful, please do consider that 5-star rating. It makes a difference for other students finding us.
It really does. And we hope this clarified things helped you see how to apply these concepts to those NCE questions.
Remember, understanding these emotional, relational aspects, it's vital for the exam, obviously, but just fundamental for being an effective counselor.
Absolutely. Keep exploring these ideas. Reflect on groups you've been in, maybe groups you'll lead.
And here's a final thought to chew on. How do these dynamics, storming, norming, roles, all of it show up outside formal groups?
Oh, good one. Like in families, work teams, friend groups.
Exactly. Thinking about it that way can really deepen your understanding, make it more real, seeing those universal human patterns.
That's a fantastic takeaway. Okay, everyone, that's it for this deep dive. We're wishing you the very best as you keep preparing for the NCE.
You've got this. Keep up the great work.
1, 2, 3.